What if the moment a narcissist loses an empath isn't just the end of a relationship, but the beginning of a spiritual reckoning they were never prepared for? Stay with me, because what ancient wisdom traditions and Carl Jung's deepest psychological work reveal about this exact moment will completely reframe everything you thought you understood about loss, energy, and the invisible architecture of the soul. Most people focus on what the empath goes through, the healing, the awakening, the transformation. And yes, that journey is extraordinary. But almost no one talks about what happens on the other side. What happens spiritually, energetically, cosmically, to the one who did the taking, to the one who treated a soul like a resource, to the one who just lost the most spiritually alive person they will ever encounter. What happens to the narcissist when the light goes out? Pay close attention, because this is where it gets profound. Jung spent decades studying what he called the psyche's relationship to the numinous, the soul's innate orientation towards something greater than itself. He discovered that every human being, regardless of how defended or fractured their psychology, carries within them what he termed the self with a capital S. Not the ego, not the persona, the deeper organizing intelligence of the soul. And that self, Jung observed, is always in motion, always seeking integration, always pulling the individual toward wholeness, whether they cooperate with that process or resist it entirely. The narcissist resists it entirely. Their entire psychological architecture is built around one thing: avoiding the confrontation with their own inner emptiness. The empath, with their extraordinary sensitivity and luminous emotional presence, served as the perfect substitution. A living, breathing source of warmth, meaning, and reflection that the narcissist could consume in place of doing the terrifying inner work of becoming real. Jung called this inflation of the ego, when the self expands by feeding on external sources rather than internal development. And while the empath remained, the narcissist could sustain this inflation almost indefinitely. But then the empath leaves, and spiritually everything shifts. Here's what almost no one understands about what happens next. And this is the part that will genuinely stop you in your tracks. The moment the empath withdraws their energy, their warmth, their attention, their extraordinary capacity for presence, the narcissist doesn't just lose a partner. They lose the only mirror that was showing them a version of themselves they could tolerate. Jung identified this phenomenon with clinical precision. He called it the collapse of the projected self. When the external source of identity is removed, the ego, having never developed genuine internal roots, begins to freefall. And in that freefall, something spiritually significant happens. The shadow rises. Everything the narcissist has spent a lifetime suppressing, denying, and projecting outward, the shame, the emptiness, the profound terror of their own inadequacy, surges upward from the unconscious with nowhere left to hide. The empath was the container for all of that projected darkness. Without them, it returns to its source. Jung was unambiguous about this process. He called it the return of the repressed. And he observed that when it happens at this depth, with this force, it constitutes a genuine spiritual crisis, whether the person experiencing it has the language for it or not. But here's where it gets spiritually extraordinary, because there are two paths that open in that moment, and which one the narcissist takes determines everything. The first path is the one most narcissists choose, unconsciously, automatically. They find new supply. They rebuild the external scaffolding. They replace the mirror. And the spiritual reckoning gets postponed, but never cancelled. Jung was very clear about this. What is not faced inwardly returns outwardly, again and again, with increasing force, until the soul finally demands its reckoning. But the second path, and this is the one ancient wisdom traditions across every culture identified as the threshold of transformation, the second path leads directly into the darkness. into the emptiness, into the shame, into the devastating recognition of what they have done and who they have been. Jung called this the night sea journey, the mythological descent into the underworld that every genuine transformation requires. And spiritually, it is not a punishment. It is an invitation, the most painful one the soul ever sends. Now here is what happens to the empath during this same window of time. And the spiritual contrast is breathtaking. While the narcissist is in freefall, clutching for new supply, manufacturing new narratives, running from the shadow, the empath is doing something radically different. They are becoming. Every spiritual tradition that has ever grappled seriously with suffering, from the mystics of the Christian desert to the Buddhist understanding of dukkha, from the Sufi concept of the nafs to the Jungian process of individuation, arrives at the same essential truth. That suffering, when it is consciously embraced rather than bypassed, becomes the most direct path to the soul's expansion. The empath has walked through fire, real fire, psychological, emotional, sometimes even physical fire. They have been gaslit until they doubted their own perception. They have been drained until they questioned their own worth. They have loved with extraordinary generosity and received systematic diminishment in return. And yet, Jung observed that those who descend into this kind of darkness and choose not to become it, who refuse to close their hearts, who refuse to weaponize their pain, who continue to seek truth even when truth has hurt them most, these individuals undergo what he called pneumatic transformation, a word drawn directly from ancient spiritual vocabulary. Pneuma, breath, spirit, the animating force of the soul. The empath doesn't just heal, they expand. They develop what the mystics called discernment, the capacity to see clearly, to love wisely, to give generously without giving themselves away. They become, in the fullest spiritual sense, awake. And here is the spiritual dynamic that most people never consider. Energetically, an empath carries what many traditions describe as a high-frequency presence. Their capacity for genuine feeling, for deep attunement, for holding space. This is not just psychological, it is, in every meaningful sense of the word, spiritual radiance, a quality of being that elevates the environments they inhabit and the people they touch. The narcissist, in proximity to this radiance, benefits from it enormously, without ever acknowledging it, without ever honoring it, without ever understanding what it actually is or where it comes from. And when it is removed, the absence is not neutral. It is felt at a level the narcissist has no framework to interpret, a flatness, a grayness, a strange and inexplicable sense that the world has become slightly less real. That color has drained from something, somewhere, in a way they cannot name. Jung described this as the withdrawal of the anima, or animus projection, the soul image that the narcissist had unconsciously superimposed onto the empath. When that projection is withdrawn, the world loses its luminosity. Not temporarily, not until they find new supply. The luminosity was never theirs. It belonged to the one who left. What happens spiritually when a narcissist loses an empath is this. They lose access to a quality of light they were never generating themselves. And the empath, on the other side of that loss, discovers something that will carry them for the rest of their lives. That the light was never something they were giving away, it was something they are, intrinsic, inalienable. Impossible to drain permanently, impossible to steal conclusively, impossible to extinguish no matter how hard the darkness pressed against it. Jung said that the goal of the spiritual life is not to escape darkness, but to become the kind of consciousness that can hold both light and shadow without being destroyed by either. The individuated empath, the one who has been through this particular crucible, embodies that goal completely. They have met the shadow, they have survived the darkness, and they have emerged not just intact but luminous, carrying within them a depth of wisdom, compassion, and sovereign selfhood that only this specific kind of suffering could have produced. The narcissist loses a person, The empath gains a soul, and that, according to every spiritual tradition that has ever dared to look this deeply into the human experience, is not a tragedy for the empath. It is their awakening. If something in this resonated with you, share it with someone walking through their own darkness. The light we carry was always meant to find its way home.